Hello students, today we are going to discuss about the phasor diagram of our three-phase induction motor. So you are already aware of phasor diagram of a transformer, right? That the phasor diagram of induction motor is also same as the almost same as phasor diagram of our transformer. Okay. So before going to learn about phasor diagram, let us see what is a phasor. Okay. See, phasor is a vector which rotates at synchronous speed in counterclockwise direction. You can see this is a vector. Okay. When it rotates in counterclockwise direction at a speed called synchronous speed, this vector is called a phasor. Here I have written the definition for phasor. Phasor, a vector rotating at synchronous speed in counterclockwise direction. Okay. See what is happening when it is rotating. When the phasor is at vertical position, here you can see initially the phasor is at this position at 0. So whenever our phasor is rotating in counterclockwise direction, you can see the tracking of waveform, which is a sinusoidal waveform in time domain. Okay. Whenever it is making angle, you can see the change in waveform. See, initially whenever our phasor is at this position, our waveform is at 0. Okay. Whenever our phasor shifted to 45-degree angle, okay, let us assume our phasor shifted to 45 degrees angle, so our waveform will shift to 45-degree angle. Okay. So this is how our phasor is rotating in counterclockwise direction and tracking a sinusoidal waveform. Okay. Here you can see whenever our phasor reaches to this position, okay, this position, you can see a 0 value. Okay. And whenever it is in this position, okay, whenever our phasor is in this position, here you can see negative maximum of our sinusoidal waveform. So this is a phasor. Okay. So whatever the phasors we are going to draw to represent the phasor diagram of our induction motor behave like this phasor only. Okay. But there will be a phase angle between each and every phases. Okay. Sorry, there is a, so our phasor diagram of three-phase induction motor is having phasors like this one, and they may be different with different phase angles. Okay. I mentioned it as theta. If this is first vector, this is my second vector, if they are lagged by angle theta, so our waveform will be, if I have two phasors which are different in magnitude, these are different in magnitude and having a lagging angle theta. So how can we write this? First, the first phasor that is rotating is first phasor, number one phasor. Okay. So first we have to write the, we have to draw the waveform for first phasor. So this is how it behaves. Okay. So after theta angle, our second phasor starts rotating. Here after some angle theta, this is theta I consider. After this, our phasor will starts rotating. Since the magnitude is different, so this is about two phasors lagging by angle theta. Okay. So this is the basic idea of phasors. Okay. Why we are drawing the phasor diagram and how we are drawing the phasor diagram. So this is the basic idea for a phasor diagram. Okay. So let us now start the actual concept, which is phasor diagram of three-phase induction motor. You already know the phasor diagram of a transformer, right? Okay. Let me go back to transformer. Here I have a transformer. I have two windings, primary and secondary. Okay. Here what is happening? So we are going to represent the parameters of our machine with phasors, that is phasor diagram. Okay. Here we have our per phase V1 is supply voltage, right, and we will get our primary current. Okay. You already know primary current is sum of our no load current and our load component of current. Okay. So this is a phasor sum. You know the I1 is primary current, that is sum of no load current and load component of primary current. Okay. And you will get a induced EMF here E1. Okay. Here our E1 is induced because of excitation current. So our effect will oppose the cause by Lenz law. That means E1 will be negative to V1. That means E1 tries to oppose the cause, that is V1. So that will be written as V1 bar equal to minus of E1. So this is V1 bar dash. So this is about our primary side. Okay. So what is happening in the secondary side? You will be having induced EMF on the secondary side also, that is E2, which is I2 into N2, right? Sorry, which is minus N2 d pi by dt. Okay, and you will get secondary current if the load is connected. If the load is connected, you will get secondary current. Okay, I2. Whenever our load demands secondary current, this will automatically induce our load component of primary current, which is I1 dash. Okay, whenever load connected, our primary will supply load component of current automatically. Okay, that is the concept. So here what? So this is the idea, and you will have primary resistance R1, primary inductance, leakage inductance X1, and secondary resistance R2 and secondary leakage reactance X2. Okay, and you already know the impedance triangle, that is, if I consider this as resistance, your inductance will be perpendicular to this one. This will be 90 degrees. Okay, this is X and this is impedance Z. Okay, you know the impedance triangle, right? This is impedance triangle. So these are the basics to write down draw the phasor diagram. Okay, this is impedance triangle. So R and X will be having 90 degrees each other. Okay, and one more thing to be considered as, if I have current I1, the resistive component, the drop due to the voltage drop due to resistive component will be in phase with this current. Okay, if I have current I1, the resistive component drop, the voltage drop due to the resistance will be drawn in phase with the current, and the voltage drop due to the inductance will be drawn 90 degrees away from our resistive component. If I have resistive component loss as I1 R1, the inductive component loss will be drawn 90 degrees away from this angle. Okay, I think you already know about these things. I am just reminding them. Okay, so let us draw the equivalent circuit of a transformer first. So you are exciting the primary with V1, you are getting a flex in the common flex in the core. Okay, so let me consider that flex as reference here. Okay, I am considering that flex as I am considering flex as common because our flex is common for primary and secondaries. Okay, so that is why I am considering flex as reference. Okay, this is flex. Okay, I have taken the flex as reference. Now let us draw the other parameters. Now let us see what is happening here. We are supplying primary with the AC voltage supply. Okay, now that is inducing some flex in the core material. That flex links with the primary as well as secondary turns, and that flex is inducing E1, that is primary EMF, and E2, that is secondary EMF. Okay, that means we are applying V1, then our flex is coming. We are giving V1 as supply. Our flex is establishing in the core, and flex is cutting with the primary and secondary currents, that is delivering our EMFs on the primary and secondary. Okay, so this is first. After some angle, our flex will become, and flex will cause some EMF in the primary and secondary after some angle. Okay, this angle is 90 degrees. That means our flex is 90 degrees in lead with E1 and E2, which are EMFs in the primary and secondary. That means I am going to draw a phasor for E1 and E2. Okay, our E1 and E2 are 90 degrees away from, 90 degrees lagging from our flex wave. This is 90 degrees. Okay, and one more thing is, here this E1 will oppose V1 because according to Lenz law, our cause opposes, our effect opposes the cause. Because of our exciting current, we are getting E1, right? This V1 will oppose this exciting current, which is given by our supply voltage. That means E1 will be opposing our V1. Okay, that is I am going to write it as V1 bar equal to minus of E1 bar. Okay, this I am writing as V1 bar dash. Okay, I am writing minus E1 bar as V1 bar dash. Okay, how can you write minus E1 bar here, this vector? How can you write a negative vector, which is, if you have to write, let me consider a vector A, if this is in this direction. So how can you write minus A? Minus means 180 degrees phase shift. Remember this. Minus is negative, means 180 degrees phase shift. That means if I have A in this direction, so minus A will be after 180 degrees. After 180 degrees, you will have minus A. Okay, this is minus A. Okay, so this is the basic idea how to draw a vector of negative quantity. Okay, here I have E1. I am going to write down next. I am going to draw the phasor for minus E1, which is opposite to plus E1. Okay, this is my minus E1. Or I am going to write it as, which is equal to V1 bar. Okay, now let us see the no load component of current. As you already know, no load component of our transformer is sum of core loss component and our magnetizing component. Okay, here our core loss component will be in series with the supply voltage, that is V1. Okay, so this is my core loss component IW. Because IMU is a reactive component and IW is a resistive component, they will be 90 degrees away from each other. That means our IMU will lag 90 degrees from IW. Okay, so now the phasor sum of our core loss component IMU, IW and IMU is no load current. Okay, so you got this. So we got flex and we got primary and secondary EMFs induced. So the primary induced EMF is counter EMF to the supply voltage, that is minus E1. I consider V1 bar. Okay, now whenever this switch is closed, okay, whenever this switch is closed, our load on the secondary side will consume some current. That means this current will flow in the secondary side. This secondary current will draw additional current from the primary, that is given as I1 dash. Here this current will be automatically generated in the primary whenever our load is closed. Okay, whenever our load current is demanding some current in the secondary, whenever our load is demanding some current in the secondary, our primary will induce some current that is equivalent to our secondary current. Okay, so what is that? So here so this is my secondary current I2. Whenever I connected a load, I will have some current in the secondary. So this current should be supplied in the primary side also, that will nullify our MMF effect. Okay, if I have I2 in the secondary, I must have some current in the primary that is equivalent to secondary current, that I consider as I1 dash, which are away from each other. And what is MMF balance? What is MMF? Which is MMF is N into I. Okay, so here our primary MMF is I excited into primary current. I excited is sum of our no load current. Okay, and what is secondary EMF? Secondary MMF, what is secondary MMF? Which is I2 into N2. Actually the flex in the core transformer of ideal transformer is constant. The flex in the core of ideal transformer is constant. So whenever you are adding a load, your secondary is demanding current. Okay, due to this current, the flex in the core material will change. This may not be constant. So in order to compensate this MMF, your primary is inducing some current, that is I1 dash. That means you will have 3 MMFs now, that is I excited into primary plus I1 dash into N1. Okay, this is, and there is secondary MMF, that is I2 into N2, which is equal to MMF of a transformer. Okay, whenever our secondary is demanding a current, our primary inducing this current. Okay, this current will be equivalent to this I2. That means these two MMFs will be equivalent. I mean to say I1 bar N1 equal to I2 into N2. So whenever these two are equal, these two get cancelled. So the resultant MMF will be due to I excited, that is I1 N1. So the resultant MMF in the ideal transformer is due to the excitation current only, which is constant. That means the MMF balance, the MMF creating by load current will be balanced by primary side load component current. Okay, so this is what I mean to say. That means the flex in a transformer, the flex in ideal transformer is constant. Okay, so where are we? So our I2, that means the I2 N2, the no load, the secondary MMF will be nullified with I1 dash N1. Okay, if these two are equal, because they are 180 degrees away from each other, that will be I1 dash N1 minus I2 N2 equal to 0. Okay, if these two are equal, this will be equal to 0. So the net MMF in the core will be due to the excitation current and primary MMF, primary turns. Okay, we are going very deep actually. Okay, now the primary current will be sum of no load current plus our load component of primary current. That means the sum of these two, the phasor sum of these two will be like this. Okay, you have to draw this line in parallel to this line, and you have to draw this line in parallel to this line. Okay, somehow I have managed to draw in parallel. It's I1 dash I naught, the phasor sum I1 bar equal to, this bar indicates the phasor sum. Okay, this bar indicates the phasors. Okay, I1 bar equal to I naught bar plus I1 bar. That means the sum of the phasor sum of these two vectors will give us the primary current, that is I1 here. This is my I1 primary current. So now let us see the expression for V1. V1 equal to I1 into our resistance in the primary plus inductance, leakage inductance in the primary plus our induced EMF. Okay, so our primary voltage is supplying our impedance drop and our primary EMF. So you can apply KVL here, V1 equal to I1 into impedance drop and this here. Okay, that is our primary voltage expression. That means I have E1 here, okay, and I have to draw I1 R1 plus I1 X1, J into I1 X1. Here our J operator will add 90 degrees phase shift. Okay, our J operator will add 90 degrees phase shift in counterclockwise direction. Okay, remember this, our JRI, the JRI will induce some 90 degrees phase shift in counterclockwise direction. Okay, remember this. Okay, I'm going to draw the phasors for I1 R1 plus J into I1 X1. So I already told you, if I have I1 R1 as this phasor, our I1 X1 will be 90 degrees away from this I1 R1 phasor. This is I1 bar X1. Okay, so here I have to write I1 R1. I have to draw the phasor for I1 R1. Here I have I1 is here. I have I1 at this I1 phase as here I have I1, okay, as this. So how can I write I1 R1? So in order to write I1 R1, because I1 R1 will be in phase with I1 because it is resistive drop, our resistive drop phase angle will be 0. There will be no phase angle between resistive drop and current due to that current. That means, let me explain here. If I have a resistor here, so I have a current I1, I have a resistor R1. So impedance will be I1, the drop due to resistance will be I1 R1. If I have a phasor for I1 like this, the phasor for voltage drop, that means I1 R1 will be in phase with our I1 current because there will be no phase angle. If I have inductor, if I have voltage as I1 X1, if I consider this as I1 phasor, the phasor for I1 X1 will be 90 degrees from I1 phase. Okay, so here I am going to draw the phasor for I1 R1 which is in parallel with I1. So I1 R1 will be in parallel with, this is my I1 R1. Okay, our I1 R1 drop will be parallel with I1. Okay, so what will be I1 X1 which is 90 degrees away from I1 X1. This is my I1 X1. Okay, so our V1 will be I1 R1 plus I1 into JX1 plus V1. So the sum of I1, this is E1, this is I1 R1, this is I1 X1. So the whole sum will be our V1. Let us draw the phasor diagram of our 3-phase induction motor. Okay, before going to that, we need to understand some things. So we have our equivalent circuit here. We are going to take the help of our equivalent circuit to draw the phasor diagram of our induction machine. Here you can see this is our supply voltage V1 and we are having a stator current I1 and this is stator resistance and this is stator leakage reactance. Okay, so here you can see this is no load current which is dividing into core loss current and magnetizing current. Okay, and we will be having extra current, that is I2 dash. Whenever we have a load, we will be having I2. This I2 will demand extra current from the stator, that is I2 dash here. Okay, and we will be having E1 here which is stator induced EMF. We will be having stator induced EMF in our stator. Okay, and according to Lenz law, this E1 is induced because of our I1 and flex. Okay, that flex and I1 are supplied with V1. Okay, so indirectly our E1 is because of our V1. Okay, the cause for production of E1 is V1. So according to Lenz law, our effect will oppose the cause. That means our E1 will oppose our supply voltage V1. Okay, that I am going to write it as this E1 is counter EMF to our V1. Okay, so I am going to consider it as V1 bar. This is our counter EMF which is equal to minus E. Okay, so this is useful for my phasor diagram. Okay, that means this will be V1 equal to I1 R1 I1 X1 plus I1 into JX1 plus my counter EMF V1 bar. Okay, this is the voltage expression for my stator supply voltage. Okay, remember this. Okay, next my voltage drop in the stator, that is I1 bar R1 plus J times I1 bar X1. Okay, and you can see the no load current I naught is sum of our core loss component and our magnetizing component, and our I1 is sum of our no load current, that is I naught. I1 bar is I naught sum of I naught bar plus I2 dash. Okay, this is my I2 dash. So these are the expressions we are getting in the primary, then the stator side of our induction machine. So using these expressions, we are going to draw the phasor diagram of our 3-phase induction machine. Okay, each and every value are per phase values, all are per phase quantities. Okay, these are drawn on the per phase quantities. Okay, so this is my stator induced EMF equation, this is my rotor induced EMF equation, this is the flux induced in the air gap, that is the resultant flux induced in the air gap, which is due to my stator turns and my stator current. Okay, this is due to, this flux is due to N1 and I1, or it is actually it is equal to my stator turns and my core loss component Im. Okay, this I mu or Im is inducing flux in the air gap of our machine. Okay, so let us draw the phasor diagram of our stator side. Okay, so I am going to erase these things. Okay, so because our flux, this flux is common for stator as well as rotor. Okay, consider our machine having stator and rotor. This is my stator winding, this is my rotor winding. Okay, here you are going to get the flux in the air gap. So this flux is linking with stator as well as rotor. Okay, so I am going to consider the flux as reference because it is common for stator and rotor. Okay, so because you know the phasor, right? What is the phasor? Phasor is a vector which is rotating in a counter in a synchronous. So you know the count, you know the, so you know the vector. Sorry. So you know what is a phasor, right? What is a phasor? Phasor is a vector which is rotating at a synchronous speed in counterclockwise direction. Okay, so I am going to consider my flux pi as reference. Okay, I am going to consider my flux pi as reference vector. Using this reference, I am going to draw the phasor diagram of my stator parameters. So what are the parameters here? Here you can see the EMF induced in our stator as well as rotor, that are E1, E2 lags behind flux by 90 degrees. So actually the phasor diagram of our induction machine is equivalent to, is similar to the phasor diagram of a transformer. Okay, our induced EMFs E1 and E2 lags behind flux by 90 degrees. So this is my flux. Okay, so and I am considering E1 bar equal to E2 bar. This happens when I equate our stator and rotor terms. Okay, if I make our stator and rotor terms, I will be having E1 equal to E2 for simplicity. Okay, so this is my E1, which is also E2. Okay, these E1 and E2 lags behind flux by 90 degrees. Okay, this is leading, our flux is leading, and flux is because of my I mu. That means our magnetizing component of current is causing flux to flow in the air gap. That means my flux component, that is I mu, will be in phase with my flux vector. Okay, all are phasors. Okay, so this is about my magnetizing component. So what will happen to our core loss component? That will be in quadrature with our magnetizing component. This is my core loss component. Okay, I mu and IW are 90 degrees away from each other. IW leads I mu by 90 degrees. Okay, now what is the no load current? I naught equal to IW bar plus I mu bar. That means the vector sum of our core loss component and magnetizing component is my no load current. So I am going to find out the no load current, that is I naught here. So this is my I naught no load current. Okay, here our counter EMF E1 is minus E1. Okay, so this will be my counter EMF E1, or which can be written as V1 bar, which equal to E1. Okay, I am going to write my counter EMF to V1, that is minus E1, which is equivalent to V1 bar. Okay, now if, as you already know, our induction machine is a lagging machine. That means our induction machine is a lagging power factor machine. That means the current vector will lag the voltage by some angle. Okay, and let us draw the rotor side components. We are done with the stator side components, I think. Okay, we are left with our rotor impedance, that is R1 X1. So we are going to draw the voltage drop due to our stator resistance and leakage reactance. So for that we need to draw our I1 equal to I naught plus I1 bar, right? This is the equation for our primary current, that means stationary current. I1 bar equal to sum of I naught plus I2 dash. So here we got no load current I naught. So how can we get I2 dash? I2 dash is actually, what is I2 dash? I2 dash is the load component of our stator current, load equivalent of our stator current. If there is any load in the rotor side, this I2 will be drawn by the load. Okay, this I2 will circulate in the rotor side. This I2 will demand some current from the stator, that is I2 dash. I already told you. So this I2 actually lags behind V2 by some angle theta 2. Okay, because it is a lagging machine, our I2 will lag behind E2 by some angle. Okay, so our I2 dash will be counterpart to this I2. This is my I2 dash. Okay, actually what is happening is the MMF due to I2 dash N1 equal to I2 N2. So this is the MMF balance happening in the machine. Okay, whenever there is a load, this load current will cause some disturbance in the air gap flux actually. So due to this change in I2, our I2 N2 will change. Due to this change, this is nothing but our MMF, this is nothing but our air gap flux. So the MMF here, the MMF in the stator side, this is I2 dash, which is the rotor equivalent of stator current, that means the load component of stator current, that is I2 dash. This I2 dash when links with the stator turns, that will produce some MMF, which is equivalent to MMF produced by load current when links with the rotor turns. So this I2 will cause some disturbance in the rotor resultant flux, that is due to I1, N1, I1. Okay, actually this should be constant for ideal machine. Okay, our flux, the resultant flux in the area is due to N1 and I1 only. So whenever this I2 causing some MMF disturbance to the rotor, so the MMF for our load component of stator current is I2 dash N1, which is equal to our load current into our rotor currents. So whenever this load current causes any disturbance in the MMF production, that means actually the flux in the area is only due to our supply current, that is I1 or I2. Okay, so this I2 load current will cause some disturbance into this flux. Okay, in order to compensate this flux, our stator will produce a current, that is load component of stator current I2 dash, and the magnitude of I2 dash and N1 is equal to I2 N2. So this, the disturbance caused by load current will be nullified with the load component of stator current MMF. So this MMF will be nullified with this MMF. So the net MMF will be 1 due to the exciting current, that is M1. So there will be no disturbance to our air gap flux. The maximum value of our rotating magnetic field is 3 by 2 Fm. Okay, so this will be constant. This is constant and rotating at synchronous. You know the concept, right? So whenever there is a load current, we will have equivalent current, that is I2 dash, in the primary side, that means in the stator side. Okay, we had our no load current, that is I naught. Okay, so this is E2. Okay, rotor resistance E2 under stop state condition. Okay, so this will be rotor power factor I2, and the angle between I2 and V2 will be rotor power factor. Now let us draw the phasor diagram for our stator current, which is phasor sum of our no load current and load component of stator current. Okay, the sum of I naught bar and I2 bar will be our supply current. That is, so I have to draw the phasors in parallel with this one. Okay, so the magnitude will be equal. So this is my phasor, which is equal to I naught, and I have to draw this phasor in parallel with this one and equal to magnitude. Okay, so this is my phasors. Okay, I will join them so that I can get my primary or stator current, that is I2. Okay, now we are left with our impedance term. So whenever our I1 passes through R1, we will get some voltage term, that is I1 R1. Our I1 R1 will be parallel this current I2. Okay, I am going to add the I1 R1 here so that I can get V1. Okay, I am going to add the I1 R1, which should be parallel with this I1 current. Okay, so I am going to add the I1 R1 in parallel with our I1. This is my I1 bar R1 impedance voltage term. Okay, now our next term is I1 X1. I1 X1 will be 90 degrees away from our I1 R, because this is J operator, right? This can be also represented I. So our J operator will shift the phase angle by 90 degrees in counterclockwise direction. Whenever you see a J or pi operator, you have to shift the phase angle by 90 degrees in anti-clockwise direction. Okay, that is the idea. So here I have to draw the phasor diagram for I1 x1, which will make 90 degrees with I1 R1. Okay, this is my 90 degree. Okay, then you can see our V1 expression, which is supply voltage expression, which equal to V1 equal to I1 into impedance R1 plus J1 plus our counter EMF. So whenever you apply a KVL, you will get this equation. So sum of our V1 bar vector plus drop due to impedance I1 R1 plus I1 x1 will give our V1, which is supply voltage. So I am going to add these three vectors. Okay, this is I1 bar x1. Okay, this will be impedance I1 bar Z1. Okay, Z1 bar. So our V1 will be sum of these two vectors, which can be drawn like this. So this is my V1 bar. This is the supply voltage. Okay, then the angle between our supply voltage and supply current will be supply power factor angle. This means the angle between this and this. Okay, the angle between this angle E1 bar and I1 bar is our theta1. Theta1 is supply power factor angle. Okay, this is our power factor angle, rotor power factor angle. So this is about state asset. So let us see the things in rotor. So rotor has two conditions. One is standstill condition, that is S equal to 1, hit. Another is running condition, hit S as somewhere, okay, less than 1. Okay, let us see the standstill condition. The standstill condition S will be 1. Okay, E1 will write. Okay, now let us draw the phasors. So we have E2, I2, and drop due to I2 R2 is in series with I2. This is my drop due to R2, that is I2 R2, and this is my drop due to X2, that will be 90 degrees in phase with 90 degrees away from I2 R2, and this is my I2 X2. So the sum of I2 R2 and I2 X2 will be E2. Okay, this is the standstill condition. So whenever we draw the phasor diagram for running condition, you will have to mention slip. Okay, the running condition equal circuit will be S times E2, and this is S times X2. So we have to multiply. Yes, this is S, this is S. So slip plays a major role here. Okay, so and one more thing is, under running condition, our theta1 will be less. That means our cos theta1 will be high. Okay, our supply power factor angle will be less. That means our supply power factor is high. Okay, this is one thing under running condition, and we will have IW replaced with IFC, which is friction, windage, and core loss component of stator current. Core loss component of stator current. Okay, so this is about our phasor diagram of our three-phase induction machine, which is similar to our phasor diagram of transformer. Okay, these values I1 R2, I1 I2 R1 X1 R2 X2 all are per phase quantities. Okay, this point should be remembered. Okay, thank you.